Good evening, everyone. This is Chris Dye with DelCo Water. We are 2 minutes till the start of the meeting, or minutes till. We'll give a couple more minutes for people to log on. I'll be right back with you. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We're at 6:32. We've got some information to get through tonight, and we want to make sure that we leave plenty of time for answer or questions and answers. We're going to go ahead and get started. As you all know, this is the Mount Air Community Water Project monthly public meeting. As construction is getting underway, we will continue to do these once a month to try and get everybody together, get some questions answered, and update you on the progress of the project as we go through. So tonight's agenda, we are going to have Mount Air speak to any of their updates that they have. We are going to go over the estimated construction schedule. They are still developing that schedule, so it is going to be very vague or broad at this point. And then we are going to touch on the lead service line replacement. If there are any lead service lines, I know we sent out a letter a week and a half, 2 weeks ago that hopefully the mail service has delivered by this time. And then some service line information. We'll talk to you about that again. So first up, I'm going to turn this over to Bill and Laura if they have anything they'd like to say to get us kicked off here.
Hi, it's Laura. We had a board meeting last month to talk through and finalize the assessment process, which has been completed as of now. I don't have a timeline on when the actual assessment starts to be collected, but it did go through. Obviously the overall cost of the project is going to be what determines the amount assessed per home. We originally went with the $16,000 per home, but if the construction costs come in lower than that, obviously that amount will come down. So as the project progresses, we will know more and we will communicate that as we do. Other than that, I don't have anything further unless you do, Bill.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was on mute. Chris, if you could allow me to share my screen for a minute, I just wanted to share a photograph.
Hey, Bill, she dropped out her internet.
Oh, okay.
So she's coming back on in a second.
Okay, good. And I assume she's the host, so she's the one that has to enable the screen share.
That's correct.
Okay.
I
thought I had,
apologize for the problem, folks. Internet.
I thought I had clicked something wrong. Sorry.
Well, you were silent, so that was going on, but
That's
you know,
right. I forgot to unmute myself.
absolutely.
It says that Joan Jennings is the host, so she should allow you to share your screen, Bill.
Really?
That's what it says on the participants.
Hey guys, so it's my meeting now. No, I'm kidding. Hold
All
on.
right.
Let me see if I can figure out how to switch over to something else. Hold on a second. Here you go. Make host. Here you go, Bill.
Okay.
Oh, I tried. Greg took it.
Yeah,
Hold
no,
on,
so-
Bill. I'm the host. I'm
Oh,
making
so
you the
Greg is the host. Okay. Can you change the settings, Greg?
That sounds dangerous, Greg.
It
Don't do
does.
it.
make.
No,
Host.
it's totally appropriate. Don't worry.
Right,
There you
Bill.
go, Bill. You're host. You're driving this thing.
Okay. I just wanted to
man.
share a picture of actual pipe. Can you see that?
Is that official like well pipe? Water line?
that is water line. So
We've never seen that in Mount Air. Sorry, I don't recognize it.
just
So,
for clarification, the blue pipe is your direct bury pipe, and the yellow pipe is what we call a yellow mine lock joint, and it's for when they drill, and so they can pull the pipe through distances without it coming apart because each joint is actually, zip tied. It's a simplistic view of it, but it's basically zip tied together. So, yes.
So anyway, I just wanted to share that because this is the first physical evidence that we have that this is happening, and we are very excited.
I am back online. Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened there.
Hey, we hijacked your meeting in the meantime. It was great.
Hey, go right ahead. Go right ahead. I will sit and watch. Do we want to get it back on track or do we want to keep going
Nope,
down?
there you go. There you go. You can
Okay.
have it back.
Okay. I didn't know if you wanted to keep going or not.
No, you're good.
Okay. Let me get back to anything else from Mount Air while I'm getting this share back up here.
I don't have anything additional.
Okay.
Nothing here. Nope.
Okay, moving right along, and hopefully my connection will hold out. I don't know what's going on. One of the pieces of information that had been requested from someone at some point was a point of contact for construction during the construction phase. The best person to contact is Bill Mart. He is the PE with CT consultants. He is managing the crews on site. He's working with the contractors and is the central point of communication between DelCo and the contractors and Mount Air. His number is on the screen there. I'll leave this here for a few moments if you guys want to jot that down, as well as his email address. This information will be available on the website for Mount Air once we've completed this meeting. Moving right along here, GE Baker is the construction company that will be putting in the distribution system for your water service. They are currently in the very early stages of getting all of their stuff prepared, getting stuff delivered to the site. They are going to advise folks of their notice of intent to work in their area. They're working on preparing some flyers. They expect to give individuals about a week's notice in advance of their being on their street in front of their house. Some of this is dependent upon their ability to receive material. Some material may have a longer lead time than others. So they may have to leave your area and while they're waiting on delivery of that material and go to another road, but they'll be back. They will notify you of any outages and road closures as a result of the work that they're doing. One of the things they did early on in March, I believe the first week of March, they did get video of the condition of the area where the system is being routed. That's all for reference for pre-construction to make sure that we put things back to the way they were. Excuse me. Here is the overview of the estimated construction schedule. As I just talked about, the pre-con video was done the first week of March. They are currently in the mobilization surveying. They did do the bore, the connection on Dogwood, which is just north of Mount Air there on the Delaware County side, to connect to DelCo's main lines. They completed that, I believe, yesterday. And then starting in the last couple of weeks in March, moving all the way through the middle of July, they will be installing main water lines, the main distribution systems that run along the roads there. After that, towards the end of May into June through August, they will be installing, they'll go back through and install the meters and the DelCo side service connections. After that, beginning middle of July to the middle of September, or excuse me, middle of August, they will be going back through and doing seeding and mulching. And then, of course, they will perform a punch list at the end. I realize this is a very broad and vague schedule at this point. They are working on refining that the closer they get to really digging in the dirt and getting things going there. I expect that upcoming public meetings, you will see some more refinement in the dates and the times that where they are at, what they're working on as they move forward. Are there any questions about what we just spoke about? I'll pause here for a minute or two to see if anybody has any questions.
Chris, this is Tammy Wright. Hi.
Yes.
I haven't participated in a few months, so I thought I should get caught up. And maybe you haven't mentioned this, or maybe it's covered, but so I saw the calendar and stuff, but so like you're installing the water lines beginning mid-March and then the meters the end of May. When does that mean that we're not connected yet? That's just the installation of the, I guess, the infrastructure.
That may, Dave, do you want to jump in here and answer that question? We are definitely doing the install. As far as whether or not we're transferring you over, may depend on, it may be more of a timing issue as far as getting bacteria testing. Dave, do you want to elaborate on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, so a couple things. As they get towards your street, And the way that have given us so far is that they're going to start at the north and work their way south. So obviously, as Chris mentioned, they started up at Dogwood Loop, which is actually the condos north of the Mount Air community in Delaware County. They'll work their way going south, and as they go south, they'll be doing those streets. So you'll see if you live on Beach Street or the north end of Ash Drive, you'll see the construction way before somebody that's down on Edgecliff. And so as they move, we're going to be powering up water lines, the new lines as they go, flushing them, back teeing them, and then they will start setting meters. So if they're getting near your part of the neighborhood, if you're putting in a new service line, or if you have to put in a new service line, getting that lined up is something you want to get done if you want to get hooked up sooner. They can wait to put in meters towards the end of the project as far as if you don't have a service line out. But obviously, if you're in a hurry, you'll want to get that out sooner. And as soon as the main is powered up on your street, they'll be coming right behind it, setting meters, and you're hooked up to the new system. So if you have an existing service line, once that meter is powered up and we know where your curb box has been identified on the existing system, it means we know where your service line's at. We can set a meter and do the switch over pretty quick after that. So one day you may have your Mount Air water, and the next day you may be switched over to the DelCo. So those ones are a lot easier. And unfortunately, not everybody has a curb box. Not everybody knows where their existing service line is. And hence why we've encouraged people to put out new ones, or they may have to because we don't know where your existing service line is. So it all depends on where you live and whether you have an existing curb box and plan on using that line type stuff. So, that's the best I can tell you right now.
Okay, what is a curb box? Is that the shutoff?
That is the shutoff that's out in your yard. And the ones
Okay.
that I've seen look like it's a white piece of pipe with a square nut on the top, which is actually
That's what I have.
actually typically sewer. Okay, if you got one of those, we should know where your connection is, and you ought to be in pretty good shape. But if you want to be 100% sure, Miss Wright, feel free to drop me an email telling me your address, and I can confirm that we know where your curb box is, and we can go from there.
Okay, one other question.
Mhm.
So I know that's the shut off and everything, but so you can connect right to that if it is indeed the shut off. But is there a stipulation about how deep the line from that shut off into my house? Is there a?
It should be about 3 feet deep. I mean, the frost line.
Sorry, no, no.
Huh?
Really? Is everyone else's 3 feet deep?
Yes, below.
That's normal, ma'am. I mean, that's
Oh, I know it's normal, but everyone up here in Mount Air, they're 3 feet deep.
I'm not saying they are. That would be what would be considered normal. They could be all different kinds of depths. I don't know how long your system was built.
Yeah.
I'm going on the assumption that they're between 3 and 4 foot deep. And like I said, we'll set a meter pit that's at ground level. The bottom of that pit is right at 36 inches. And so, if you have a poly service line coming out to that curb box, they will shut that curb box off, cut that line between the curb box and your house, and hook it to that meter pit. And the meter pit, just to be clear, it has a new shutoff in it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see, if you look at the picture that Chris just put up where it says it has a little 15 inches, it's pointing right at the shutoff valve on the curb box, okay, or on the new meter pit. So you have a more accessible shutoff than what you did have before. Plus your metering is now going to be outside. So, and like I said, unless there's something weird with your line going to that curb box, we ought to be able to make that connection over to your existing line. We'll get into a little bit about if it's lead here in a bit, because that's a little bit of an asterisk, but yeah, in most cases that your existing service line is between 3 and 4 foot deep.
Dave, I would kind of add, and I do see that other people have questions, but I would add that uh, I would suggest, or just personally, I would encourage everyone to consider putting in a new service line rather than relying on the service line that they currently have. Some of the service lines that people currently have been in there a long, long time. Some of them had different metals at a junction that have corroded the pipe. The last break that we just had was in a service line where the pipe corroded through and popped a hole. If you do not know that your service line is in really good shape and is pretty new, I would strongly encourage you to replace that and put a new service line in.
I'll follow up on that. This is Laura. I absolutely agree with that. I think our system was put together over time and there were a lot of non-standard connections made. I would not be comfortable, paying per gallon going forward, not knowing that I've got a secure line into my home and I want to make sure that it's the right size, the right depth and everything else. So going forward, I would just suggest everyone have that at least checked out before you connect so you know for sure what you're getting into.
Yeah, the last break we had, the hole in the pipe was the size of maybe a pea at the most, and it was pumping 5,000 gallons a day.
Yeah, it doesn't take long for a service line leak to cost you pretty good money. I
Right.
see that Miss Janning has some questions.
Hello, yes, I do. All right, first one, and I think this kind of only really affects me, but I'd still like to ask. The construction company, are they planning on having their staging area at the west end of Edgecliff until September?
I can't answer that. It's the construction company's responsibility to acquire their staging areas. I'm assuming they got one off of, Mr. Haddon.
Steve, yeah.
Yeah, and how long he has an agreement with them for, I'm not sure. But if they only have it for part of the summer, that means they're going to move it to somewhere else until the project is over with.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question, which I think is kind of a loaded question, we don't have to talk about it right now, but I don't think I ever saw anything in terms of like a bid opening and qualifying bid. So my question is, when we go back to the $16,000 assessments and then saying we're not sure if that's going to be sufficient or if it's going to be less, if the contract was awarded, how do we not know how that affects the assessments? Because I would assume that it's awarded on lowest bid, or I guess I don't know how you qualified them.
Well,
Okay.
we did. Oh,
go
go
ahead,
ahead, Dave.
You go ahead.
Okay, sorry. We did take bids. We did accept the lowest bid. The construction part is just over 800,000, and that is a bid. That's a quote. We will not know the final pricing of everything until all of the construction is done and all of the invoices have been submitted and paid. But that is their bid. We shared that at the last public meeting. What the bid amount was for the construction of the system. It should be kept unless there's a lot of change orders for whatever reason, whatever comes up. We should be close for construction at around $805,000.
And note, Joan, that's actually a bit less than we worst case scenarioed. So we would expect if it comes in anywhere near that, we should be able to lower the assessment amount per home.
Right, this is John B. Janning. So question that I have related to construction is what kind of agreement is this? Is this a lump sum? Is this a guaranteed max price? What are we looking at here?
So the way they do it is the engineer breaks it down by item, and then the contractors all bid on those individual items. And then there was, the engineer had estimated quantities. Now, as stuff goes in the ground, those quantities are actually measured, as they go by the inspection team. And so, if the engineer's off a foot here, a foot there, a valve here, valve there, whatever, they're actually paid for what goes into the ground. And then, as they mentioned, there's what's called change orders. So, say, conditions don't allow us to do the construction the way it was designed, and we have to change method or, add on or take off. And it can go both ways. If for some reason, we're able to shorten up, make a change that actually shortens it up, it actually lowers the price. So a change order can go both ways, but that would be what would change that amount that they bid. Okay, they can't change the cost per unit. You know what I'm saying? They've bid that, that's locked in, but the number of units will adjust based off of, how construction goes.
Hi, Dave, another question, Ruth and Leonard Weinsteiger. Is it possible to get the lead replacement letter sent to our email? We're not presently getting mail at our address.
Yes, absolutely.
Should I email Dave with our
Yes.
address? Or?
Yes,
Okay,
please
thank
do.
you.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Well, to anybody that needs that sent to you via email, just let me know or let Dave know and we'll get it over to you.
Absolutely. And back to the bidding real quick. If anybody, I don't remember if we posted that on the website. If you want to see the bid tabs, I mean, I'd be more than happy to share with you the other contractors. The highest bid, I believe, was Truco Construction out of Delaware. And
it was like 1.6, I think.
It was like 1.6 million. So, literally the group that's doing it is doing it for half of what the highest bid was. So I was very pleased with how that result came out.
So this is John B. Janney again. So my concern is, you guys signed a contract for 800,000 and being aware of, that's kind of a low bidder, but what's the actual construction going to actually cost? I mean, you're talking about change orders, which that could get very pricey, and I'd like to know the end result of where we stand.
Right, and we won't know the end result though till the construction's over with. I mean, if everything goes according to plan, it's going to be what they bid, which, like I said, was just a little over 800,000. But
and GE Baker is somebody that we have worked with numerous times in the past. We have very little reason to have concern. But you never, once you get a bucket in the ground, you never know what you're going to find.
And the assessment is based currently on 1.2 million.
Right.
So there's quite a lot of leeway, and if they run into a bunch of rock or something, that really creates a lot of expensive difficulty, that could change it. But we feel pretty confident that we're going to be able to get there, well within the assessment amount.
John Janney, again, one more question, just related to, if we have all these meetings per month, and what kind of reporting or, letting us know, updating on construction costs and how much money we've spent versus what's not spent, and that kind of ordeal.
Absolutely. I plan on having a progress report of what's been put in the ground, what's been inspected, what's been powered up. As far as cost reporting, it will depend at the time of the meeting, what invoices have been, pay requests have been submitted to us. But we could certainly get close to that.
Chris, if we get change orders, is that something the district can put out just so people are aware of what's been requested, if it's above and beyond what we expected? Or
I would assume so. Dave, do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem. We just need to, make sure that CT Consultants, who is managing the project, knows that that's something we want.
okay.
And they couldn't be on tonight, so
Okay.
unfortunately.
So John and Joan, the district can post those, and I'll put an update out on the Facebook page just whenever there's an update that might be outside of the norm, if it's in between the meetings.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think we're done asking questions. And if it does stay close to that 800K, then I say good job all around for estimating high and having it come out pretty good for everybody. So thank you.
You're welcome. And fingers crossed, we want it to come in as low as possible as well. We'll be watching that bottom line as closely as you all are. So no worries there. Any additional questions before we move forward?
This is Crystal Augsburger on Edgecliff.
Yes,
Bill, I think last time I had asked, I know we had kind of talked about maybe talking to GE Baker and seeing if they would offer like a community discount for folks wanting to use them to install a new service line. has anybody talked with them about that, or will it just be up to individual homeowners to maybe reach out to them and get an individual quote?
We did discuss that at our kickoff meeting here on the 25th of February. And at that time, the representative from GE Baker said that they would take a look at coming up with some kind of a quote for doing a service line. They expected they would probably have kind of a standard quote and then an additional factor for additional footage beyond what they figure is kind of a standard connection. He has not gotten back to us yet with that. So I do expect that they will offer something, whether it's going to be better or worse than what you could do independently. I wouldn't promise, but I would think if they had the expectation of doing a bunch of them and they've already got equipment out here and everything else, that it should be favorable. But at this point, I can't promise that. The other thing that I should mention is that even if GE Baker, the contractor, does your individual service line, that's a separate transaction altogether from the overall project. It's not a DelCo responsibility. It's not CT engineering responsibility. It's strictly between each property owner and GE Baker. So that's a separate deal altogether.
Right.
And,
Okay,
and I will update that as well. I got an update from CT about some other things, and they threw in there that GE Baker is actively working on putting some pricing together for y'all. What that is, I don't know. I just know they're in one of their emails today that was mentioned that they're working on that. So it is on their radar. They are working on it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm also just curious if anybody else in the community has started investigating or gotten any quotes from other companies. If you wouldn't mind sharing it in the chat, that would be
This
awesome.
is Tammy Wright again. I have another question.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay. Is a lot of the plumbing in my house has been updated. It's not that old black stuff that falls apart, but most of it is newer, like within the last 20 years. But is there a way to pressure test my house? Can the the plumber that's installing this new line, is there a way to test it with the amount of pressure that will be coming? I've heard that it's so much more pressure than what we currently have.
Dave,
so it can be tested for leaks.
Absolutely. So once you're connected to the DelCo system, on our meters there is a little red triangular dial, and at any time customers go out and take the lid off, you can take it off with a pair of pliers, and you can look at that red dial. And if it's spinning, and the contractor, when they hook up and turn it on, because they will not turn it on when nobody's home. Typically, I don't want to say never, because you never know, but they shouldn't. If it starts spinning a little, they'll let you know that there's a leak somewhere, and it could be a leaking toilet. It could be a leak actually in your existing service line if you're continuing to use your existing service line. It could be in a bunch of different places, but you'll know if it's leaking, and it'll pick up. I think those meters are rated to pick up a quarter of a gallon movement.
Yeah. Yes.
So
And I think,
basically,
is there a way to do that ahead of time, Dave?
That's
Where
my
that
question.
she wanted to know if they could be preemptive, and if a plumber or someone, I don't know, could do a pressure test on their plumbing ahead of turning on service.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You could put a test pump on, say a outside hose bib and pressure up the system, but that's only if you have a way of shutting a valve where you're connected to the existing system or to your existing well, because of course, if they start pumping up and pressuring your existing house plumbing, it'll just shove back out into the well or into the Mount Air's existing system if there's not a valve to isolate the system. You understand what I'm saying? So
you mean like a main shutoff for my house?
Exactly.
Inside, yeah, I have a main shutoff for my house right inside my house before it goes to the water heater or anywhere.
Okay. And that's, you can shut that valve, and they can do a plumber can do a pressure test on the inside. I've never known one to do it, but I'm sure it can be done. So yeah, if you want to check the pressure or what your plumbing can take, you can do that. Just to give you kind of an idea, on a new build house, plumbing is supposed to take 150 pounds. And I can assure you that even on a brand new house, fixtures that refrigerators make, like if you have a refrigerator hooked to an ice maker that's hooked to the system,
Oh, no,
it
no,
doesn't take that much.
can't
But
have anything like that.
yeah,
No.
but I just want you to know and so your internal plumbing, it can take pretty good pressure, and it's going to take a lot more than or it should be able to take more than what we're giving. If you want to drop me, or when you drop me a note, tell me your address. I can tell you roughly what your pressure is going to be, but a lot of, I will say at least half the community, we're installing pressure reducers at the meter. And those pressure reducers, I think they come set at 55 pounds and they're adjustable up to 70 pounds, because depending on where you live in relation to the river, is going to determine how high your pressure is. If you're at the west end of the community, up the hill, away from 315, you might not be on a pressure reducer in your meter. Okay, you may be on what we call tank pressure. But the other folks, that once you hit a certain point and that break point is 90 pounds, we put IPRVs, or individual pressure reducers, in the meter pits, so you don't get over 90 pounds, because 90 pounds is the break point of what the AWWA, which is the American Water Works Association, says. Hey, you don't put people's pressure into their homes more than 90 pounds. So that gives you kind of an idea of the most you can have is 90, and the least you can go to is 40, but we don't have pressure problems in this community.
Yeah, our current system maxes out at 94 pounds, right, at the tank, which is down next to the river. So everybody else is going to be something less than that, although there's a few houses down next to the river that may be, running close to that pressure when it's at full pressure, which it only stays at full pressure for a few minutes.
I'm sure we're not at 90 pounds up here. I mean, just judging from when I shower, it's got to be less than that.
Well, yeah, and of course, the other factor in addition to elevation above the river is how much stuff is in the pipes over the
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
going up to your
Oh,
house.
yeah.
Yeah. The
Right,
buildup in the
exactly.
primes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, when it's been measured at my outside spigot, it's different than what my experience is inside the house. So your interior lines might be dampening it down quite a bit as well. I get pretty good pressure at my house, but I don't think DelCo's pressure is going to blow me out of the water, because it's probably about the same, and it's going to feel the same to me unless I upgrade my interior pipes.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
thank
might also want to have a plumber take a look at if they've got the correct size lines in your house. I know our house is an older house, and when we had a contractor come in and look at the plumbing, and he replaced a couple of lines that were 1/2 inch with some 3/4 inch, it made a big difference in the pressure we were getting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
Okay. Is there any additional questions before we move forward? Okay, moving on. I will have more opportunity for more questions. As we've kind of been staring at this screen for a minute here, this is what a typical meter installation looks like. You have on the left-hand side of the screen, you've got the water main, the DelCo service line from the main into the meter pit, your meter, and then we will connect to your service line on the right-hand side of your screen. As we touched on earlier, you're going to see this. It's about 3 to 4 feet deep. You will see the top of the lid, that it's about the size of a dinner plate. Should sit flush with the ground. If it does not, we can make it so. If you want it flush with the ground, if it is not, you just let us know and we'll get it lowered for you so it is flush with the ground. You should be able to mow right over the top of it. We do ask that you don't obstruct it in any way. Don't set a planter on it. Don't set a bird bath on it. Don't plant a whole bunch of bushes around it if you can avoid it. Those do need to be accessible. Most importantly, for if you have an issue with your water and you need it shut off, we need to be able to get to it to shut it off for you. And having it covered up with anything does cause our technicians problem. And you are going to be outfitted with a cellular meter, which means your readings will be transmitted back to our system via cellular service. So keeping it unobstructed is important to get those readings back. And the cellular, in the realm of leaks, you can set up leak alerts on your own portal, and you can watch your usage. You can get leak alerts if your water meter um, registers water usage constantly for a period of time. You can set a threshold, and it'll send you a message telling you that you may have a leak. So you can kind of catch it a little quicker. That it reports every day. So you'll know within 24 hours if you've got something funny going on, if it's not readily visible out in your yard or in your house. I've got some chats coming in. I want to check those real quick. From Alexa Beer, not sure if we have a meter pit. You will have one at the end of this. You may not today, you may or may not have a curb box today, but at the very end of our project, once everybody's all up and ready, you will have a meter pit that looks just like this one on the screen. Moving on to the lead service line conversation. Part of the initiative from the EPA is to get rid of all of those old lead service lines. As we all know, from discussions around lead paint and lead piping, it causes some health problems for folks. We do want to let you know right off the bat, DelCo Water's distribution system and water are lead free. We are primarily a PVC pipe system. And what we have galvanized pipe, I believe, for the larger mains. Your service line or plumbing may be lead or contain lead material. Homes built, according to the EPA, homes built prior to 1986 are more likely to have plumbing containing lead, but they may not. You're going to want to check service lines, older faucets, and any foreign-made plumbing fixtures and material. Where the U.S. products made in the U.S., lead has been banned as use as material. That may not always be the case for products made overseas. So just make sure you check that out. Part of the lead service line initiative, replacement initiative, as in coordination with this project, we are going to replace, we being DelCo, are going to replace any found lead service line. And as I alluded to earlier, we did mail out a letter letting you know our intent. If you did not get this letter because of mail service or you're away from your residence at the moment, please let us know. We will send you a copy via email. Basically, all this says is that the EPA wants us to change out any existing lead service lines that we're aware of. So if we are going through and we are setting services, setting taps, and we are actively looking for the type of service line you have. If it is lead, we are going to replace the entire thing from the meter into the house and the shutoff valve. That is all, the cost of that is all taken under consideration under the EPA's program. They have set aside funding for that. So that is not going to be borne by the residents. So during the project, we will be actively investigating all services with the intent of identifying the existence of any lead service lines at the time of the meter installation. We will, if we find them, we will notify you, and I'll show you that form on the next slide. We will notify the property owner of the existence of the lead service line. We will offer you a point of use water filter for drinking water to use during the time leading into the identification of the lead service line and its remediation. The property owner must execute a waiver to allow DelCo Water to replace the lead service line at no cost. And that, I'll show you that form coming up next. We're not expecting the occurrence of any lead service lines. but it may happen, and we have to be prepared to take that into consideration and get it remediated when we do find it, if we do find one. And this is a screenshot of what the right of entry waiver looks like. We have that prepared in all hopes we will never have to use it because there's no lead service lines down there, right? But we do have it. We do ask, if we do come across one, we will ask you to fill this, read it, sign off on it, and we will get your service line replaced. Are there any questions around the lead service conversation, the lead initiative? Let me check the chat here real quick. Oops.
And the service line is just into the home. So I know early on we had talked about, really encouraging people to check the pipes inside their home, which would be
Right.
separate from that, because
Right.
any change in the pH and the water, the new water source is going to potentially free things up. So if you haven't had a plumber out to check your interior lines, I would just encourage everybody to do that. Many of our homes were built in the 30s, 40s, 50s. And, there's potential that there's something there that would be on you to fix, but it would be to your benefit to know that ahead of time.
Just to throw a little bit of clarification out there. So the solder, if you go back in the history of plumbing here, and we get into some deep stuff here, the solder that has been used up into the 80s may have a little bit of lead. And if you have a house that has copper piping, that solder may have a little bit of lead in it. It's, at least at this point, it's not something that the EPA is saying, oh, this is a big problem and you should replace all your plumbing. And that's why we're focusing on the service lines that are lead. Those service lines that are lead, that is 100% lead. It is a tube of lead. That's the best way I could describe it. And they used it because it was soft and it was pliable, that you could bend it in directions, and that's why it was used. And of course, they didn't know at the time that it was a potential health issue. So when you look at your plumbing, you're looking for stretches of actual full lead piping, or a fixture that is 100% lead or has lead piping in it, whether it's a faucet fixture or whatever that has the tails that actually connect to your plumbing that might be all lead. But the odds of it is pretty slim. And even the odds of getting a service line that has lead in it is slim. I've been in about a half dozen, or actually I've been in a dozen basements of different residents in your neighborhood. They've all either had a steel line or a polyethylene, a black poly line, which is a more modern service line. So this is probably not an issue, but the EPA said we need to have a backup plan in case, we do come across one. We have to be prepared for it, and that's what we're doing. So, it's nice that if you by chance do have one, we come across it, we'll do a little bit of paperwork, replace it, and then in theory, the EPA is going to pay for it at the end of the project. So, but if you have any questions about this type of stuff, obviously feel free to ask us.
Okay, I'm not seeing anything on chat just now. I'm going to pop through. Dave, I'm going to hit you up to talk for a couple of slides about the service line installation. And then we will pretty much be wrapped up, other than some end of meeting questions. Dave?
Certainly. Like I said, the type of pipe we're using between the main and the meters is what's called 1-inch iron pipe size SDR7 polyethylene. You can see in the picture there, those are 300-foot tubes that we buy. Obviously they sell it in as short as 50-foot sections and 100-foot sections. That's what we recommend, but you can use other sizes and types. You can go onto our website and there is a guide to selecting a service line, and there are other options. But this is a very good option as far as we're concerned. Like I said, it's got a full 1-inch inside diameter. It says on our graphic here that it's rated at 200 PSI. That's actually, they've upped the rating. So I think they're now at 250 PSI. You're also welcome to use copper. It's a more expensive route. It has a longer life expectancy than polyethylene, but you know, it's all what you want to have. Most cases, people are running the black polyethylene anymore, and like I said, there is dozens upon dozens of different types. So if you want us to make that connection between, you know, your new service line and the meter, when we set the meter, look at that guide to selecting a service line on our website and make sure that your plumber or whoever does your install puts in a size that we have fittings for, because again, lots of different sizes and types out there, and that means there's also lots of different fittings for it. So you know, when you put it in, as I mentioned earlier tonight, 36 inches of cover is plenty. The frost line for Ohio is about 32 inches. And I think that's probably even adjusted to be less than that now, but you get the idea. You don't want it to freeze over winter. So 36 inches is plenty. You know, make sure you don't stretch the pipe when putting in the ditch, and also watch for rocks, because I know rock is a concern in your neighborhood. A rock thrown in directly on top of a service line, over time, as the ground shifts, it will wear a hole in it. We have rocks that will wear holes in water mains. So the fact that they can go through a hard material like PVC, they'll do it on a service line too. So definitely watch out to make sure you don't backfill directly up against the pipe with rocks and that type of thing. And if you have any other questions, feel free to let me know.
Dave, just real quick, is there any metal or material you should definitely avoid other than lead, of course? I'm just thinking, you know, as I mentioned, a couple of the leaks that we've had have been because there were two dissimilar metals used and it led to corrosion.
Correct. And you definitely don't want to, I think if you have different types of metals, you'll cause corrosion. It's electrolysis in the piping. You know, on top of your water heaters, there's actually a fitting there called a dielectric union, which creates a separation between the steel of the hot water heater and the copper in your piping. You know, if you have copper piping in your house, and so that's one of the ways it's being protected inside your house. Same thing. If you're going to put in a metal service line of any type, I would only recommend copper. They call it K copper, and it's a softer copper. It comes in a tube or in a rolled, just like what you saw the rolls of the polyethylene. Copper comes rolled like that too, and it's a softer copper that they can roll out and into a trench. But again, price wise, you know, it happens occasionally, but that we come across somebody that put it in copper, but it's pretty few and far between. Polyethylene is pretty much what everybody puts in anymore. And like I said, we can connect up. I think we have 3 or 4 different types that we can connect up on our website. But if you're going metal, go copper. If not, go with the polyethylene. That'd be my recommendation. Chris, you want to go to the next slide?
Yep.
This is a list of contractors and plumbers. We're not recommending anybody, but they're people that have laid or done service lines on our system. You know, my suggestion is, you know, get some quotes. Obviously, you know, I saw in the chat some people were talking about different things. Bill's, you know, obviously talking to GE Baker about possibly providing some quotes. My theory is, you know, more quotes is better, and that way you definitely know that you're not overpaying for getting a service line in. And you know, if you need a copy of this list, we can email it to you. I believe at one point Laura had it on the website, but this is just some people that have dropped their information off to us over the years and said, yeah, you know, let customers know that we like to do this kind of work. You can go to the next one.
Sorry, I was answering a chat.
No, no problem. Is there any other questions about service line installation?
I'll just say, I think the timeliness of getting your service lines run is kind of critical. So as the different streets are completed, if there's a problem with our current well system, like there's disruption to the line or something like that, we're not able to repair it, or it's costly to repair, it's going to be really imperative that everyone on that street be able to connect very quickly so they don't have, disruption in water service or additional expense to the rest of the well system. So I'm just, if you haven't looked into that, I would go ahead and get that figured out pretty quickly. So when they do get to your street, you're able to connect as quickly as possible.
Dave, is your email .org or .com?
Actually, it's both. Either way, it will come to me. So they used to have it as .com, and then at some point we switched to .org. But if they have it set up that if it comes in through .com, it still comes in. So yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Not a problem. Not a problem at all.
If we have a stake in our front yard with a blue, marker on it, is that where the meter pit is going for getting estimates on that service line replacement?
I did not put a blue stake in your yard. It could be the surveyors put the stake in, and I would have to know which yard it is, but I would have to look at that. I'm not sure.
I think they put some blue stakes in where they did some core drillings.
It was the survey company. I talked to the guy. So
Survey company? Okay.
I don't know what the stake in our front yard means. So Dave, I shot you an email if you just want to look at it.
Okay, I will look at that and try to get you some answers, because I have not been down on site because they just started working up on, I was up on the spot where they were actually, connecting to our existing system on Dogwood. I have not been down in the lower section yet so I don't know what staking they've done yet. So I apologize for that.
No, you're good.
That does beg a quick question though, is I believe that you can determine where you want the meter pit to a certain extent. It has to be a certain distance from the main line. But as far as laterally along the main line, you can put a stake in the ground and tell them this is where I'd really prefer to have the meter pit, so that your service line can run the way you need it to in your yard, especially if you're trying to get around vegetation and such.
Absolutely. And so if the project plans, which are posted on the website, you can see where the general area where your meter is expected to be installed. If that's an issue for you or you want to adjust that, you can let us know. You can also we can talk to GE Baker. It's not a big deal to adjust it until it's put in. If they get it put in, adjusting it at that point in time is probably not going to happen. So if that's a concern, let us know. If you're running a new service line out, it tells them where you want it. So if you have that done before they get there, what contractors do is they call it a pigtail, but they just add some, dig the pipe out towards the road, and then at the end where they stop, they just bring some of that pipe up in the air and let it stick up in the air about 4 foot. And like I said, in the business they call that the pigtail, and it's like a big marker sticking up in the air saying, hey, right here is where the meter is going to go. And GE Baker should be able to react to that.
Dave, I've got some questions coming in through chat that we need to address. The first one was Linda needed to know if she can remove all the pink wetlands tape running through their property. I do not know the answer to that question, and unfortunately CT is not on tonight.
Yeah. I would leave it. If you would, feel free, Ms. McGahee, to send that to us, and that question to us, and it'll remind us. We can forward it on to CT and see if it's something that can be removed. I'm guessing it can be, but I don't want to answer that in case it's got to be something as far as a marker, for the contractor, because wetlands are not supposed to be disturbed by the construction, and so that may be something that they need to see just to be 100% sure. But those wetlands are also delineated on the plans. But I would definitely make sure before we say, yeah, go ahead and remove them, and then they have to put them back in.
I've taken note of that, Dave. I'll reach out to Dan later tonight on an email and see if I can get an answer for that one. And then Joan is asking again about, she needs clarification on the staging area west of Edgecliff.
And that would be, again, something that I could ask GE Baker about. I don't believe Steve Haddon is on this call tonight, or he might be able to tell us, but
Dave, I'm here if you guys.
are you? Okay.
Yes. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I have agreed to GE Baker to allow them to use one lot at the end of Edgecliff. But if anyone else wants them to allow them to use their land, be more than willing to allow that to happen. I was really trying to do that to allow them to get in and out of this community as quickly and easily as possible. And if anyone wants to go up there and look at the yard, it's staging of pipe that's as large as a house, and a lot of big equipment coming in and out. And so yes, I agreed to it. There is no fee from the company to us. So we're just trying to make it easy on the community to get that accomplished.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's just part of construction, right? You know, you've got to have the equipment, you got to have the material there, and it's got to sit somewhere. And those are all the burdens we all have to bear. Hopefully, it'll be quick and easy, and we can get done with it.
Joan, looking at your comment, if we want to have a time frame where they're in and out of there, we can definitely have a conversation with them so that you know when they'll be there. Just let me
No,
know.
not at all. Not at all. It's completely fine. And I'm used to being around construction. And it's something that I personally don't mind having going on because it is for the better of the community. It just personally sucks that I'm going to be dealing with construction and porta potties until September right outside my bedroom. So it's fine.
And I apologize. I have to go to another meeting. And so have a great day.
No, thank you, Steve. Thank you for your assistance.
All right, bye.
Steve, I owe you a phone call, and I will get that tomorrow. I apologize for that.
No big deal. No big deal. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you again.
Again, we are going to get construction underway here directly. Hopefully it will be as quick and painless as we all know construction may or may not be. We are sensitive to the needs of the community. If you do have concerns, issues come up that you need to air out or see if we can resolve, please reach out to Bill Mart. Let me see if I can get back to that contact information screen. If Bill Mart does not get back to you in a time frame that you are comfortable with, please feel free to reach out to Dave or myself or Natalie with DelCo. And hopefully we can have a great product at the very end of this. I have no doubt that GE Baker is going to do a wonderful job for us.
Thanks so much, Chris. This is Laura. This is the first meeting where we've actually talked about something that's about to happen. And after, I don't know, 7 years of trying to get this project off the ground, it's amazing to me that it literally is starting already. I just appreciate everybody's efforts, and oh my goodness, I know we're going to have some challenges just getting it all implemented, but this is going to be an amazing project for our community, and I'm so excited that it's actually moving forward. So thanks to everybody who's made this happen.
Yes, thank you guys. Thank you guys for willingness to work with DelCo. We are very enthusiastic and excited to have you guys as members as quickly as we can get you on board, and look forward to serving you well into the future.
Well, and my hope for the Water District folks, my hope is that we do some kickoff events and things throughout the summer. If there are growing pains on certain streets, if you guys are, if anyone's out of water for any period of time, maybe we can, try to do some different things as a community to help everybody get through this next phase as best we can.
Oh, that's a wonderful idea. I think that will help to keep spirits up throughout the construction. Okay, are there any more questions and or comments? All right, I'm not seeing anything on chat, nor am I hearing anything online. That will bring our meeting to a close for this month. We look forward to seeing you all again next month. It will be the same link. Again, it will be posted on Mount Air's website and Facebook page. So no need, if you don't want to save this one, it will be out there again for you in April.
And I will send out reminders again to the Mount Air shareholders at least.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Have a wonderful end of your week and a great weekend.
Thank you,
Thanks, Chris.
everybody.